Welcome into Last Call on Wager Talk TV. I'm Meghan Payton. Happy Thursday, a show that gets you all involved. If you're new here, welcome to Last Call. This show's all about you. We are driven through the YouTube live comments. So it's very simple here. I'll simply navigate the conversation. We're going to have three amazing guests joining us: Prop God Andy Lang, Adam Trigger joining us, and a brand new guest, Kyle Anthony, to talk some MMA, UFC 288, all here at Last Call. So, reminder, it's very simple. Head over to the chat room, get your questions in. It's called Last Call for a reason. So, we get the last minute picks, last minute bets for the slate up tonight and this weekend. So, head on over there right now. First up, not a stranger to Last Call, been here many times. That's Prop God Andy Lang. Thank you very much for joining us, Andy. You've been crushing it. I feel like you're all over the place. Formula One, UFC, NBA, MMA, all over the place. Number one, the last 7 days. You're also on a 5-1 NBA run. Hopefully, we can get a free pick out of you today. How's it going? What have you been up to aside from all that I just mentioned?
Yeah, that's been it. It's a busy time of year. It's a busy week when we have all of these sports that we handicap. So some weeks are busier than others. This has been a good one. Yeah, we're going to talk NBA and NHL. So focus on NBA a little bit. Yeah, 5-1 run. So really happy with this week. We hit a 5%er on Monday. We have a play up, and honestly, it's been tough to narrow down the plays. But the more picky that we get, the more winners that we end up having. So it's one of those games where I have a lot of leans, but we're going to roll with one particular play. So we got the Lakers and the Warriors tonight. I have thoughts.
Lots of thoughts and lots of time to answer any questions you have. So, talk NBA, talk NHL, two games on the slate for the Stanley Cup playoffs and one for NBA. We start, though, out Golden State, Warriors, Lakers. Golden State laying 6.5, total at 227. Tip off at 9 p.m. The Lakers lead the series 1-0. The odds makers say Golden State's coming back in this one. They're going to win at home. The Warriors have been really good at home in the regular season, 33-8. Can they do that again, Andy? And will they cover the 6.5 spread? If so,
Well, there's a lot of things at play here. Obviously, you do have the Golden State home game. You also have what the Lakers did in the first game, and I think it was a pretty clear strategy that the Lakers had. Lakers said the Warriors are coming off of a brutal, very physical series against Sacramento. What's the best game that we can take from Golden State at home? And they went all in on game one, and it worked. They get the win, so they get the split. 117, 112. And there are a few things at play here. And the first thing I have to look at is Anthony Davis playing 44 minutes and LeBron James playing 40 minutes. This is a series you have to look ahead at the schedule. These guys are playing every other day, so there is not a break in this series. You look at the Lakers playing the Grizzlies, and some of those games were every third day. Now the Lakers end up closing out Grizzlies. They had some rest before game one, so you have to kind of handicap this game, and you have to take a stand on: do you think the Lakers are going to try in this game, or do you think this is going to be a futile effort? And we saw a futile effort last night when the 76ers inexplicably played Joel Embiid when he was at what, 70%, which was absolutely worthless. I don't know why you would even try in that game. So they put wear and tear on Joel Embiid. They got nothing out of him except a little bit more possible injury to that knee, and they got blown off the court. So I don't think the Lakers are going to make that same mistake. I think that they're going to see how this game starts to unfold. Maybe they see early if Steph is cold or if Clay is ice cold, and they have a chance. I think if the Warriors want to get to keep this game out of reach of Lakers, they got to come off to a hot start. If they do, don't be surprised if the Lakers kind of start shutting down some of the guys in the second half. So if you think that's going to happen from player props, you're taking Anthony Davis under his points, rebounds, and assists. This guy, every other game, he goes over and under. I mean, it's like clockwork. He has a big game, he has a bad game. Big game, bad game. LeBron, 40 minutes in the last game. LeBron is going to get his other teammates involved. When LeBron doesn't have a lot of rest, watch him. He won't try as hard on defense. He'll pick his spots. It's quite honestly brilliant the way he's able to rest while he's playing. I've never seen anybody be able to do it the way he does. But so if you got Anthony Davis going under and you have LeBron being a facilitator, if you look at some of these games where the Lakers didn't have a lot of rest, you see bigger games from Austin Reeves. You're seeing bigger games from D'Angelo Russell and some of these other role players. So if you think the Lakers are kind of going to take this game off, which I do, you're taking unders on Anthony Davis and LeBron. You're taking overs on some of these other players like Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell. From the Golden State Warriors side, they cannot come out slow. I would take a look at them on the first quarter to win the first quarter. They actually won the first quarter 31-29 in the last game. And that was a game that the Lakers were giving 100% effort to. Golden State's got to set the tone early. Klay Thompson, I don't really know what to make of Klay Thompson. He is just very, very streaky. He's always been that way. It was 9 to 25 from the field. Steph was 10 of 24. They had three guys make 6 3-pointers. That was Jordan Poole, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson. But Klay was awful in the first half. I just can't trust that guy at player props. If you want to take Steph, I think the only way to take him is take him over 3-pointers made. I wouldn't touch his points, rebounds, and assists. He did have 6 rebounds and 3 assists, but when they got his number set so high tonight that he's going to have a huge game in all the categories. I would look at Golden State. Steph Curry over made 3-pointers. Jordan Poole tends to do well in these games that get out of reach late in the game. So look for Poole to have a good game. These are all if you believe that the Lakers are kind of going to punt on this game and Golden State should clearly win. If the Lakers are trying in this game and Golden State looks cold early, it could be a nightmare for Golden State. It's just kind of how you think the game is going to go. Me personally, I think the Lakers watched what happened to Philly last night and they said, no, thanks. We're not going to put wear and tear on our stars. So give me Anthony Davis, LeBron James under. Give me Russell and Reeves over. Those are my favorite props tonight.
Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Steph Curry all had over 20 points in a game in which they lost. The problem for Golden State wasn't their shooting ability, it was that they weren't getting to the free throw line. That should change. The disparity was like crazy. 25 free throws for the Lakers, 5 for Golden State. Let's head over to the chat room, Andy. A couple questions coming in. I know some people, even in the NBA tip-off show, were leaning on the under at 227. It's come down on some books at 226 and a half. Big Dog with a question. I think you already touched on this a little bit. Andy, what do you think about Looney's assist prop over? I heard Ralph mention it on the previous show. And any thoughts on D'Angelo Russell's points prop?
Well, Looney goes over his assist total when Steph and Clay and Poole are shooting the ball well. They run those pick and rolls, and he ends up getting assists. He can kick him out to 3-point shooter. So I think Looney over his assists is a sneaky one. You just got to hope that Steph and Clay and Poole are shooting the ball well, which I do think they will. So if you want to narrow down Looney's, I don't know. Maybe it might be getting a little too cute to take his assist. Maybe you look at his rebounds. This is a guy that's getting 20 plus rebounds. If Anthony Davis is going to rest a little bit, I don't know if AD is going to have another 23 rebounds, but you look at the rebound totals and it's Looney and AD and LeBron, and that's about it. So you could take his assist. Maybe you look at Looney over his points, rebounds, and assists, but I certainly wouldn't talk anybody off of assists for Looney.
Andy, do you think there's any part of AD that's sitting here listening to the media, hearing the narrative that he's so back and forth from game to game? Anthony Davis, 30 points, 23 rebounds in game one. Yet the public and media, we all expect him to have a slower game based on history. Is that maybe some sort of motivation for AD and we could perhaps see a bigger performance than maybe we expect?
No, I don't. I don't think LeBron and Anthony Davis care that much about narrative. I mean, no,
Fair.
they had it's championship or bust for these guys. And in order to do that, you have to play smart and you have to manage yourself. Like Anthony Davis is not going to play 44 minutes 2 games in a row. His body has shown over the years that he just can't handle it. Uh, I see somebody in the chat, Xavier, saying AD is 30 years old, not 40 years old. I understand that. A little bit of a brittle 30-year-old body, though. Let's just say that toughness is not a word you use to describe Anthony Davis, and I think it's smart to rest him. And the Lakers and LeBron are no dummies, so I don't know why you would go all in. You did exactly what you wanted to do, which is got your split in Golden State. Your goal was to get out of Golden State with one win. They went all in on game one. So, and if you want them to be healthy and at 100% for the games back in LA, I don't know why you would put the wear and tear on them if the game gets out of control.
I'm with you, Andy. It's just fun to think that somewhere deep down, AD, LeBron, they care about what we're all
They
saying.
care
All right,
about us.
continue. They care
Yes.
about us. Continue the NBA talk in the comments. Andy can jump on that in a sec. We got to switch over to NHL. Two games on the slate for the postseason tonight. Let's start with Maple Leafs Panthers. Toronto is minus 210 on the money line. Panthers with the upset win in game one. Game two tonight. Andy, what do you expect to happen out there in Toronto?
Well, you've got two teams in the Seattle Kraken and the Florida Panthers. And it's like, are we allowed to believe in these guys yet? All they did was win their first round series, and all they're doing is continuing the momentum. I mean, Seattle, it's their first playoff appearance, and they knock off the Colorado Avalanche, and then they come out and they handle business in overtime on the road against Dallas. Florida takes on the number one team in NHL history, and all they do is knock them off, and then they come back and beat Toronto 4-2. So I think there's one play that you could look at that's pretty sneaky. This is a parlay on their team totals. If you take the Seattle Kraken over 1.5 on their team total tonight, you can parlay it with the Florida Panthers over 1.5 on their team total. That gets you to minus 128, which is perfectly fine. And you look at look at the Florida Panthers. They scored 4 goals in the first game against Toronto. Then you go to the Boston series. They're scoring 4-7, 4-2-2-6, and in the very first game they only scored one. So you're looking at a team that's gone over 1.5, 7 games in a row. And you look at the Seattle Kraken. The Seattle Kraken always score first. That's been one of their signature things in the playoffs is they're always going to get the lead and they're going to score early. This team that comes off a tough series against Colorado and they hang 5 goals on them. They've only gone under this total one time in the playoffs. So you got two teams that have hit this total in 7 and 8 times. You can parlay them together for a really, really good piece. The Toronto Maple Leafs defense is okay, but they can be exploited. And Dallas, I mean, nobody's writing home about the defense Dallas has been playing. So I think that one could be a pretty sneaky one. If you want to look at some player props, I mean, take your pick. Every team shot the puck a ton last game. One thing that we're going to do, I'll tell you guys what we're going to do tonight. We're going to take 3 of the Florida Panthers players. We're going to take Bennett, Barkov, and Montour, and we're going to put 1% on all of them to go over 2.5 shots. We would love a 3-0, obviously, but we think 2-1 is probably the worst case scenario for a little bit of profit. If you want to look at the Seattle Kraken, it's a little bit juicy at minus 160, but they still have Sprong for Seattle at 1.5 shots on goal. He had 5 in game one. So if he goes over again, that number is going to jump from 1.5 to 2.5 real quick. So if you want to take advantage of Sprong for the Kraken to go over 1.5, I would jump on that one as well.
Dallas minus 210 on the money line for tonight. I was watching Puck Time earlier and I heard Carmen, the guys, talking about a futures bet on the Dallas Stars. I'm from Texas, so you know that's music to my ears. Andy, could you see Dallas in it for the long haul?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough series. And the smart thing to do is take the team that lost in the first game and then put a future series on them. Because if they win the next game or even the next two, you could take the other team and you could be sitting on two futures tickets on two teams at plus money. So it's definitely a smart thing to do. You always want to take a team when they're down so you can get the best odds. You're not going to play any futures on the teams that won game one. You want to take it because you get the best value. So yeah, I could absolutely see them sprinkling that with the thinking of if Dallas wins the next game and you can get a plus money on the Kraken, you could take both, and then you're in the perfect situation where you have 2 plus money tickets where you cash a little profit no matter what the outcome of the series is.
Andy, we appreciate you joining us here at Last Call with your knowledge of all sports, NBA, UFC, MLB, Formula One. You've got everything going on. You also have a promo up, so remind everyone where they can find it and what code they got to use to get it.
Yeah, so we're going to do this. We have it live tonight, but we're going to do this every Friday from now on. It's promo code Andy3, ANDY3. It gets you a 3-day pass for $39. That way you can just get all of the weekend plays. So, for example, this weekend, you're going to have Formula One, you're going to have lacrosse, you're going to have our UFC play. We're number one the last 365 days in that. We've got a golf tournament going on, along with NBA, where we're on a 5-1 run. So it's a really good promo, especially considering that we've got some 3%, 4% plays that are already up that you can take advantage of. So just use the promo code Andy3, get you 3 days for $39.
Andy Lang, number one the last 7 days, also on a 5-1 NBA run. We appreciate you. Have fun this Thursday night. Go cash some tickets.
Thanks, Megan. Have a good one.
All right, I saw someone in the live chat, which I very much appreciate, and I'm trying to find the name of who. Fritz Allen, that's who it was. Fritz Allen said, "Smash that like button, baby. We appreciate the love." And Press was on here not too long ago. He brought up a good point. It really does help us continue to do these videos for you guys. The more engagement we have, so this is why we really encourage you guys to head over to the live chat. If not, just simply press the like button. We want to keep these shows going, and we need to be able to show our bosses, our producers, like, look, we're doing good here at Last Call. So please help us out. Press the like button and get involved in the YouTube live chat. We are here to talk some MMA, and no better than a brand new guest here on Last Call, Kyle Anthony, MMA expert, first time guest here at Wager Talk's Last Call. You've been the number one MMA capper the last 3 years, over 100 units of profit. You also have a 5% play up tonight. So, welcome to the show and tell us a little bit about what you have going on at Wager Talk.
Yeah, so it's been a good couple years, and we got to keep that going. So this weekend, big UFC card, UFC 288. I have 5 plays right now in the package for clients. So if you buy the 5%, you're going to be getting all of them. And it's been a good run, and we got to keep it going. Big card, title fights, all kinds of good things.
Kyle, UFC 288 main card. I know you've got something you're looking at. Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. Cejudo's coming out of retirement, 3 years off, and Sterling's been the guy. He's been the defending champ. There's a lot of storylines, a lot of narratives for this one. Sterling right now, a little bit of a dog. Cejudo at minus 115. Any plays that you're looking at here? How should we approach this one?
Yeah, so this one is an interesting one for actually a lot of reasons, to be honest with you. But when you're looking at it here, like you said, it's at basically a pick 'em price right now. And the one thing here with Sterling is well-rounded. He's rangy. He's got great grappling. That's always been really his path. He puts that all together. Where Cejudo, it's going to be the wrestling. It's going to be the takedowns. It's going to be the control. Double champion. He was also gold medalist in the Olympics. So he has all those accolades. But to your point, Megan, he's been out for 3 years. And that's going to be a talking point, I think, for a lot of people throughout this week. It's going to be talking about it. And I think that's important. Obviously, any sport you don't do for 3 years, even if you're practicing on the side, there's got to be some kind of regression in some aspect of your skill set. But I think it's more important to look at what he did even prior to his retirement. And if you look at the last 3 fights that he fought TJ Dillashaw, which Dillashaw moved down to flyweight to fight him, and he looked horrible. Dillashaw was drained. He was not hydrated well. He just looked very bad. He got knocked out. That was real quickly. The fight after that, he fought Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes was really looked at as this guy that was coming up, big kickboxer, big power, and that was really going to be kind of the next big thing. But now Moraes is 1-7 out of his last 8, and he won that first round against Cejudo years ago. So it does give you a little bit. But then you look at the most recent fight, which again was 3 years ago, but he fought Dominic Cruz, and Dominic Cruz was off for 4 years himself and came in on somewhat of a short notice, and then he beat him, and then Henry Cejudo retires. So yes, there's some name recognition there, but I just don't really see that that's really the best kind of run up that you can have. And then on the other side of it is Cejudo is very undersized for the bantamweight division. People kind of look at him as this guy that really, hey, he came up to the division, he's looked great. But again, he's undersized. Aljamain Sterling is going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage. Those are the things that I think really help him work at distance, work at range, be comfortable in space. And not only that, but Cejudo has to somehow cut distance. He has to get his hands on him, look for these takedowns, look for this wrestling. And if he can't do that, he's in space against Aljamain, who has this reach, has this height, as well as he has the advantage when it comes to the volume. He's a big volume guy. He pushes a high pace. He pushes out volume. So that's a lot of things that Cejudo has to kind of get through in order to have success. And also, you got to look at is if Cejudo does get these takedowns, and that's where he wants to be. He wants to be top control. But that's not actually the greatest place to be either, because Aljamain is good off of his back. He's aggressive. He will submission hunt off of his back, and he can scramble, get back to his feet. So there's a lot of things, even if he gets to that particular situation, it may not be great for him. And the last stat that I got to say, which really kind of sticks this whole thing together, is between flyweight and welterweight fighters who are 35 and older are 2-22 in title fights. And Henry Cejudo right now is on the wrong side of 35, 36, but he's 35. So a lot of this altogether, to me, I like Aljamain Sterling. I think he really has a great performance, and this is going to be an and still champion. I like Aljamain at this number.
Kyle, lots of talk, lots of speculation on Sterling's ideal situation for retirement. And when we start talking retirement, we start hearing about lack of effort, lack of motivation. Do you buy into Sterling's notion that in 4 fights he might be calling it quits, therefore the motivation might not be there?
Yeah, I mean, there's difference because you got Aljamain on the one side. I mean, if he wins this fight, he's got Merab Dvalishvili, who is his training partner, who is right behind him, who is like the number one contender. So if Aljamain wins, I really believe he goes to, he moves up a division and he allows Merab to kind of get into a situation where maybe he can get the title on his own and kind of do his own thing. So I think that's a possibility. And Cejudo on the other side, I mean, if he loses this, I don't really know where he goes. I mean, obviously, huge name, big, a lot of accolades. But again, if he loses here in a position, he's not going to go down in weight. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. But I don't see either of these guys really going anywhere right now.
Kyle, we head over to the YouTube live chat. Lots of thoughts on this main card. Ghosted says, would you mind taking either of these fighters to win by points? Doubt it stays within the rounds.
And the main event, you're saying?
Yeah, on the main event. He's talking about Sterling here.
So I actually do think that this fight goes the distance. I don't really see a knockout. I don't think that Cejudo is a kind of guy that is going to push for these knockouts. He has knocked guys out, but again, we just kind of went down Marlon Moraes, who's chinny, TJ Dillashaw, who came down in weight, who just looked horrible. I think Aljamain has to play very smart and at distance, and I think that pitter-patter game, outworking from the outside, gives this fight some legs into the fourth, the fifth, and I think it goes to a decision. So I would lean Sterling via decision if I'm going for a method.
Theo Green in the chat saying, I think it goes 5. The total rounds number at 4.5. If you were betting on it right now, over or under?
Over. I'm taking the over.
Over. All right, I like that. All right, Kyle, before we let you go, I know you've got a play in the undercard as well. So what are you looking at there?
Yeah, so the other one we're talking about here is Jessica Andrade. She's minus 200 going up against Yan Shonan. She's plus 154. So this is a spot here where Jessica Andrade, she is always big for the division. She's strong. She always is able to outmuscle anyone basically within that division. And Yan on the other side, she's sharp, has great striking, good footwork, nice hand speed. And these are the things that really have made her successful. But if you're looking at this line, I think the reason why this line is a little bit wider than it should be is really due to the terrible grappling, or at least perception of terrible grappling of Yan Shonan. I mean, not long ago, she fought Carla Esparza, and Esparza went in there, took her down, mauled her, dominated. And that really gives a bad taste in anybody's mouth because you've got Andrade, who does have that path. She can go in there. She can get takedowns. She can use her jiu-jitsu. There are things that she does. The problem is that if you're paying up for a minus 200, she does not follow strategy. Andrade will push forward. She will brawl. She will fire big shots. She's not really going to be as calculated. That's kind of been an issue with her, where it's just wild shots. She does have the power to end this at any moment or really hurt Yan. I think that's absolutely a possibility because she throws everything with 100% power. She does not really set anything up. You don't really see jabs or just set up combinations. She's throwing big hooks and she's looking to hurt you. But the problem here is that Yan, I believe, is much more technical on the feet, has a little bit more when it comes to just range and footwork, where again, you got Andrade, she's plotty, she's slower, and I think the technical skills and the crisper striking of Yan is going to really help her in this particular spot because Andrade can be reckless. And I think when any fighter is in a position where they're reckless, they're overthrowing, they're getting out of position, those are where sharp strikers are going to be able to counter, look for opportunities. And I think a lot of people are kind of thinking it's just going to be Andrade that looks for these takedowns. The other part of this is the fact that Jan can get her own takedown. Now, I'm not thinking she's going to do that, but she has the ability to work from top control and get some takedowns. So I think that's also in there as well, too. But Jan can target different parts of the body, not like Andrade, where she's just head hunting. She's just throwing big shots. She's going to work the legs, the body, the head, mix it up a little bit. And as long as she can stay clear of some of those big shots, I really believe that Jan has the opportunity to get this victory. The line is wide. I think the absolute value is on Jan Shonan in this spot. And I think she can out-volume her and win on the scorecard. So this is another spot where I do like Jan plus 154. I also think a sprinkle on the decision is plus 250, I think is a nice spot too, and probably her most likely path. I don't see her putting out Andrade really at all. But again, plus 150 is pretty nice. I'll take that. But again, plus 250 via points, I think is a good spot as well.
Sometimes these are where the better value spots are on these undercards. All right, we got a little thought from you, Kyle, there. I got to go total rounds as well. 2.5 is the line, over under for this one.
I got to go over. Like I said, I think Jan working from the outside, taking shots, working, being smart. I know that it's a little scary going up against Andrade and her finishing ability, but I think that Jan can do this, and I do like the over.
Kyle Anthony, #1 MMA capper the last 3 years, over 100 units of profit. He has a 5% play up at WagerTalk.com. Go and check it out. First time guest at Last Call, Kyle. It was great talking with you. Thanks for joining us. Come back next time. Let's go talk some more MMA. Thank you.
Thank you.
We move on to some Korean baseball with none other Adam Trigger. Before we bring him on, this is a reminder, any baseball questions, head on over to the chat. Adam Trigger's your guy. He's going to talk anything Korean baseball, MLB. We got it all. Adam, thank you very much for joining us here at Last Call. How are you? I know you're bouncing around from show to show, so we appreciate you as always spending your Thursday here with us. What's going on with you at Wager Talk?
Yeah, so today's been great so far. Korean baseball winner this morning. I had a very fortunate win this afternoon. Megan, I had the Pirates plus 1.5, down 3-0, bottom top of the ninth, 2 out, and they get a 2 RBI double to backdoor that. So that's I believe 4 winners in a row now. April was a little bit of a wash for me, like pretty much a break even month, like just almost to the cent. But that came after a huge March. So the way I look at it, I kind of look at that as a little bit of a victory, right? Like I think I had 67 units of profit in March. So to not give that back in April I looked at that as a positive sort of way to start the season. And now we're starting to roll. The flip to May has been good. I think, like I said, four or five in a row. And we actually, Megan, so normally Korean baseball does not play early games any other day than Sunday. And the early game in Korea creates the late night degenerate game for us here in the US.
Exactly.
So it is a holiday of sorts in Korea, or there's a reason, similar to the way we play day games on 4th of July, Memorial Day. There's a couple of like sort of like holiday type days where they do it over there, and Friday is one of them. So all of the games that we're going to discuss on this show are all kind of like Thursday night games. So even though we don't have any MLB, all the MLB is has started. Granted, if you want to ask a question on a game that's going for in-game purposes, that's fine. These Korean baseball games are tonight, so we'll get you some action one way or another. And I'm going to give out a 4% play on the show, so we'll make sure you don't leave empty-handed.
And here's what I like. You talk about late night for maybe those on the East Coast, but I'm out here on the West Coast. So the game we're about to talk about, it's at like 10 p.m. my time. I'd be down to watch it. It's rare that we get to see that. Exactly. So we can get the West Coast times on.
You never get to experience the 10 o'clock start unless it's something like this, right? Like I'm the 10 o'clock start's one of my like favorite, especially during like college basketball season. You get a lot of 10 p.m. games. I'm more of a night owl. I like being up later. I do wake up every morning like 5:30 a.m. because of for the Korean baseball and stuff. But I don't mind staying up and watching games. I always I argue with the West Coast people. Like I prefer the East Coast time for sports much more than the West Coast.
100%.
I'll die on that hill any day of the week. You cannot convince me that NFL starting at 9 a.m. is good. or 10 a.m.
Adam,
Can't do it.
we could do a whole show on the East Coast time zone when it comes to sports, and the NFL, I think, is where we see it the most. All right, but today we can get some action. I think the betting gods are here telling us all who've never bet on Korean baseball, today might be your day because you can actually watch the game. Let's get into it. We're looking at SSG Landers versus Kiwoom Heroes, SSG minus 130. Adam, I put it in your hands. Tell us what we should be doing. And also, we talk about this a little bit, but when you're approaching handicapping Korean baseball, you talk about size, you talk about unders. How are you going to factor in with this game out there tonight?
Yeah, so Megan, you can actually watch all of these games, and I'll retweet the link. You can watch them all for free. But yeah, this is so SSG Landers, Kiwoom Heroes. My handicap revolves around the starting pitching, but I still like the full game, and I'll explain why. So we'll start with the starting pitching in this game. You've got Chan Hyung Jung, who's a veteran guy, a guy that's been in this league for a long time. He's probably on his way out of the league in terms of, he's a veteran. He's not as effective as he once was. He's probably in the twilight of his career, I think is the best way I could put that. So much so that he was not on a roster at the beginning of the season. Kiwoom has been his team, the team he's been on for most, at least recently. I believe he was on another one for a stretch of his career. They tend to not move around a ton in this league. So Kiwoom didn't bring him back coming out of spring. But they had a young player struggle a little bit, and they decided, you know what, we're going to bring the veteran in. He's a guy that is going to go out. He can eat up innings. He's not going to get killed. Like he's a quality enough starter for the caliber for this league where he typically won't get blown up. But his stuff is not even close to being like average at this point. It's below average. His stuff is below average, and when you face a team as good as SSG is offensively, that's where he's going to struggle. And he's going to struggle here specifically because he's going to face a left-handed heavy lineup, and he doesn't do well against left-handed hitters. SSG has some of the top left-handed hitters in the league. You might remember Shin-Soo Choo, longtime Texas Ranger, spent some time on the Indians or the Guardians when they were in the Indians,
Yep.
the Guardians as well. Long MLB career. He's now back in Korea. He's playing with SSG Landers. He's one of the better left-handed bats in the league. And SSG, just top to bottom, is a very good offensive team. So, and they're one of, they're last year's defending champions. They're right at the top of the standings this year. So they look to be a contender once again. They are going to send what I'll call a kid. He's 22 years old, to the mound in One Suck O. However, Megan, you're not really a kid at 22 in this league because it's very different from Major League Baseball. When you're a top draft pick in Korea, you're thrown in there at 18, right into the fire at 18. They say, go out go play with the big boys. Show us what you got. That's how this league works because the depth, the roster depth isn't there. So if they've got a good 18-year-old like top draft pick, they're going to go and they're going to learn on the fly a little bit. And that's what, and sometimes, 18-year-old thrown into a league with a bunch of professionals, they tend to get knocked around. They take their lumps, they make their adjustments and see if they can grow from it. And that's really what's happened to 08. His first 2 years in the league, he got knocked around a little bit. He was essentially a regular in this starting rotation at 19 years old, and he just didn't really know how to pitch yet. But last year, I felt like he took a little bit of a step forward. And then this year it would be his fourth year in the league, but it's really his third full season at the top level. The minor league over there is called the Futures League. That's where he spent the majority of his first season. I think he's turned a corner, and I think he's in the process of turning a corner, but that hasn't really been priced into the line yet. So I'm high on him going forward. I like the talent. I like the fact that he got his ERA under 5 last year, and now he comes in with an ERA of 4, but the WHIP is nice and low at like 1.24, and all of that is encouraging to me. Reasons to play on, if you will. Those are signs to that guy's a bet on guy. I guess is the best way I can put it. He is left-handed. Kiwoom tends to be worse against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. Granted, they've got some guys that do hit lefties, but it's just something that's important to note. And SSG's bullpen is far better than Kiwoom. So just for some overall context, Megan, this is a rematch of last year's championship series. SSG beat Kiwoom in what's called the Korean series. That's their version of the World Series in this league. And both bullpens last year were outstanding. This year, SSG's bullpen is still outstanding, but in my opinion, Kiwoom's really taken a step back in that department. So I think I'm getting the better starter. I know I'm getting the better bullpen. And yesterday, SSG, they've won back-to-back games, but they've won in blowout fashion. So they really haven't had to tax the top bullpen arms. I just like how this game sets up across the board here for SSG. I think you got the better starter. I think you have the better lineup. Certainly the better lineup for the starting pitching that's out there. SSG tends to hit right-handed pitching better, and Kiwoom tends to hit right-handed pitching better, but they're facing the lefty. So better setup for SSG. The Landers have the bullpen advantage. And when I get all the boxes checked, Megan, when they're all checked, then it's time to bet. Minus 130 is a price that I can live with here. So that's a 4% play for me. SSG Landers, minus 130. Client play, 4% play. It's my favorite spot in the Korean baseball. That goes tonight, or I guess you would say early Friday.
Landers SSG minus 130. Vegas in the YouTube live chat brings up a good point when betting on Korean baseball. Adam, do you ever lay the run lines on these games? I know they're generally low scoring, but are there times when you would lay the run line?
So I love a plus 1.5, very similar to Major League Baseball. If I can get good value on plus 1.5, I'm gonna do it. The problem this year, just to give you an answer to this question, the spots to do it are fewer and farther between this year. And the reason for that is I think the odds makers are just sharper on this league. This season is really the first year where you can go down and get a legitimate wager down at like a FanDuel or a Caesars, or like the big boys are putting these lines up and they're taking actual bets on them. In years past, you used to have to really, have a couple of different outs just to get what you wanted to get down for a lot of people on Korean baseball games, because it was still more, viewed as more of a niche sport. But this year has been very different in the regards of FanDuel's offering it. Like all the big spots are DraftKings. They're all offering these. They're offering relatively normal limits on these games. So I just think the bookmakers are putting more effort into setting the lines in this league. And you're finding that the plus 1.5 odds are juiced up. I'll give an example from tomorrow's slate. Hanwha Eagles plus 1.5. If this was like plus 1.5, minus 110 with Hanwha, I might be willing to jump in here. It's up in like the minus 140 area. And at that price, there's just no value there to take a shot with the plus 1.5 run line. The reason I tend to not lay the minus 1.5, Megan, is I just don't think that that's a good long-term bet. I think long-term laying the minus 1.5 run line is a net minus EV proposition. I don't think that you don't make money that way in Major League Baseball, and I don't think you make money that way in Korean baseball either.
Adam, you bet on MLB, NFL, college basketball, a lot of the mainstream sports, and sometimes, cough, cough, Easton, we get some hate on Korean baseball. And we've talked on the show before about the value that you can get in betting on this. Vegas even said in the chat that he loves to bet on it at night. He wakes up with money in his account the next morning. So, in a few words, why is it important and where can you get the value in betting on Korean baseball?
So, in my opinion, the value there's very clear value in a couple places here. One, if you can be ahead, so look for a guy like the guy that I talked about in my breakdown of SSG, One Suck O. He was a high draft pick that got knocked around as an 18, 19-year-old, took a step forward as a 21-year-old, and now in his fourth year, 22. Like, Megan, if you think about Major League Baseball, guys that are like top prospects, they're usually breaking into the league around like what? They're 21, 22 years old, right? Like, and you can even equate that like other sports as well. NFL players, most of them go play 4 years of college. They get to the pros as a 22-year-old, a 23-year-old. I think NBA in a lot of cases, by the time they're really ready to contribute to an NBA team, unless they're a total outlier, they're 21, 22 years old. So I think if you could, and here's where the value is. The value is in the fact that they come up at 18, 19 and get hit a little bit. So their numbers, for someone that's just setting the odds and looking at their numbers, they see Won-Suk Oh with a career ERA of like 5, when that really is like misleading based on the fact that they probably, were in over their heads a little bit as a teenager playing against, guys in their prime. Another spot I think you can find value in this league is injury news. If you can be ahead of the injury news, or at least not even ahead of it, I think you have to be ahead of it in American sports because it's widely reported on. In Korea, it's really just about knowing it. Like, there's a great example from yesterday. The KT Wiz they had wholesale injuries yesterday, and like 3 of their top players sat out, and they got blown out. It turned into a pretty easy sort of betting opportunity if you were on top of that info. So injury news is huge. Trying to be ahead of the curve on guys like, there's one on Doosan. His name is Guak Dean. He's another one that I think has arrived at this point. He was inconsistent last year. He is an absolute stud, and he looks to be that this year. I don't know that the books have fully caught up with that yet. That's how you find value in this league. And the reason is the odds makers don't always know that. I expect the odds makers to know that stuff in the big time sports, but in a sport like KBO, it might not get as much of attention, and that's where you can exploit the book.
Adam Trigger breaking down KBO MLB value everywhere. Trig, before we let you go, remind everyone what you have up at Wager Talk this week, where they can find you.
Yeah, Megan. So last 365 days at Wager Talk, I'm number 1 in units gained, win percentage, and return on investment. The best thing you can do, and this goes for me and any of the handicappers on this site, is the long-term packages. It's going to be the best bang for your buck. It's going to be the cheapest in terms of like dollars per day. You get all the plays. And so I would say check out 7-day, 30-day. I think 7-day might be on sale right now. I don't have anything to sell tonight because I gave you the play I would have sold. So SSG Landers minus 130. I gave it to you. I'm not going to put it up for sale because I gave it out on this show for free. So that's one that's normally on, up for sale. That's a client play. And Major League Baseball, we're just starting to roll in that. I'll have plays probably up in the morning for tomorrow. So head on over to my page, check it out. But again, no need to do anything tonight. You've got SSG Landers minus 134% play, and that's my only play the rest of Thursday. So hopefully we all cash that one together.
Adam Trigger, thank you very much. We appreciate your time here at Last Call. We'll catch you here next time.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right. That will wrap up Thursday's edition of Last Call. We appreciate you guys taking the time joining us here, getting some last-minute picks, last-minute bets, and big game in NBA tonight, NHL as well. All right, I see 52 people watching, and I said this from the start. It really helps us when we get likes on the channel. I promise we're not trying to just be basic, getting some likes. It helps us create more content for you. So before you log off, please just click the like button. We are back here on Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We got the Kentucky Derby. We'll talk NBA, MLB, all of it. Get a little horse racing in there as well. Thanks for joining us. Catch you here next time at Last Call.